We're very, very fortunate today to have Kent Hopkins, our ASU leader, who will share his perspective and why enrollment is important. It's not just an operational concern, that it's a strategic priority. So he's going to talk about some of that. This is a great conversation that would be led by our own Iveta Silova, Associate Dean for Global Engagement. So we're going to be talking the full spectrum, the local needs that we have to the international and global needs. So with that, I just give it to you, Iveta. Just take
Thank
it
you
away.
so much, Sarup, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the session which we called Reading the Signals, Enrollment Trends at ASU and Beyond. And I'm really pleased to be in conversation today with Kent Hopkins, who is Vice President for Academic Enterprise Enrollment here at ASU. Ken has been a central figure in shaping ASU's enrollment strategy for nearly 20 years during a period of very remarkable growth and transformation at ASU. Under his leadership, ASU has expanded access in significant ways, welcoming more first generation and Pell eligible students, dramatically growing international enrollment, and strengthening its commitment to inclusion as part of ASU charter. Kent's work sits at the intersection of strategy, access, and student success, overseeing everything from admissions and financial aid to international student services and veteran support. He also brings a national and global perspective through his advisory roles, such as organizations like the College Board and Cambridge International. Kent, it's really a pleasure to have you with us today.
Saurabh, thank you very much. That's a really long drum roll to talk about an old person sitting in the Zoom room with you. But I'm glad to see some familiar faces and some new faces, and especially Carol. Carol's been a great partner, and I would say as one of the deans who really embraces this construct. And so I'm going to start with your college first. I wish we were all, let's pretend we're in a meeting room together. We kind of are with Zoom. But I'd really like to start with the college first and commend you for what you've done these last 10 years. 10 years
Thank
ago,
you.
Mary Lou Fulton College enrolled in the fall. I'm not looking at academic years right now, about 5,400 students. This fall, you welcomed close to 8,600 students. But your students changed, didn't they, over the course of these last 10 years? In 2016, 3,000 of your roughly 5,400 students, 3,000 were campus immersion students, and 2,400 were digital immersion. Now, 9 years later, about 1,800 campus immersion students and 6,700 digital immersion students, mainly in graduate education. So I place that landscape out there because I want to hear from you. You know, some of you may know this. My days are numbered here at ASU. This is my last academic year, and I'm going to retire. I celebrated the 17th consecutive year of my 48th birthday. Everybody do the math, on January 25th. And after 41 years, it's time for me to spend with my family, my spouse, our granddaughter, and the base is yours. It's been such a joy. But in order to understand the signals, you have to understand the college signals first, what you've done, what you've accomplished, and where you're going, and then how you are a critical piece of that work. I would say the most critical piece, be absolutely wonderful instructors. The core of our work is the classroom. It's learning. It's passing that knowledge on to our citizens. But I've got questions for you. Let's talk about Mary Lou Fulton College. As faculty, as staff, what have you seen change over the course of the last 9 years? Good, bad, and indifferent. Now, you're in a safe space with me, so please talk away. Don't get quiet. Don't hit mute. This needs to be a conversation.
That's awesome. Let's open the floor. Anyone? Steve, looks like you started answering already.
That was just kind of a joke. I told Kent we're hoping to see somebody beat Gary Bitter in the years of service.
Yeah.
Tell
Carol, would
me, tell
you?
me what you've seen. Truly, it's an
Mhm.
exceptional, I wouldn't, well, it could be considered transformation. I mean, just think of the types of students you are now serving 9 years later that you weren't serving in 2016.
I mean,
What
I'm
are
gonna
there?
say
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna say it's a different kind of student. In our program, we have a mix of students. So we have from like early career people to
Hmm.
mid-career professionals, and across that age group, there's a significant difference. The young students, the students who are in 20 somethings essentially, struggle incredibly with. I'm going to kind of say the simplest things, executive function things. They can't get organized. They can't get the work done. Every peripheral concern in their life takes priority, over the course and over getting the work done. And that's really difficult for us to manage as program coordinators and as faculty. They simply can't stay on track. Whereas my mid-career people are like, what do you want it? When do you want it? And what do you want and when do you want it? And that's that it
Yeah,
gets done on time.
yeah.
So, we're really having to reshape the way we teach and reshape our course materials to accommodate their lack of ability to focus and to stay on track.
Mm.
Based on some of those changes and modifications you've made, Steve, based on learner type, what progress have you seen? What has latched? What still is a work in progress?
So, we continue to do things to support that, assignments, for example, maybe more step by step. This semester, we started generating step by step assignment organizers that they can download and work from the assignment from there. Reading, staying on focus with reading is really difficult for them, and a lot of the time they simply don't do the reading, and that's problematic because at least in our program, a lot of what's in the readings is incorporated in the assignments. So, we get things that are off topic in there and they're like, oh, it's good enough, so but no, it's not good enough. And we're just trying to address that with restructuring the way we lay out the content, the number of steps, for example, to do an assignment, the level of direction we provide them. All that said, there's only so much we can do. At some point, they have
Hmm.
to take the responsibility to get the work done.
Yeah,
And if they ask for exceptions past a certain point, we're at the point now where we're having to say no.
Mm.
yeah.
Hello, my name is Maria Teresa Tato. I'm a faculty member in the college and also the coordinator of the Masters in Education, in Global Education. And I arrived at the college in 2016. And I began, teaching face to face, but then I started working with faculty members to organize an online program, that master program. So it's completely all online. And I have to say that developing that program was an important step in my development. I had never really taught online, and I loved it. I think I can see really how students are learning as they progress through the program. But the first time that we ran the program, the students were very good at teaching us what was needed, right? Because the first cohort is a co-collaboration between what is in our heads and what the students are receiving. So we did this, and the program has been very successful in my view in terms of really conveying to students the importance of global engagement and helping them understand, global theories that allows them to then perform diverse functions in an international and also national contexts. Our students are mostly practicing teachers.
Yes.
So, and they really identify with the themes in the course and all of that. But in general, to answer your question, I just feel that thanks to many of the people in the college who are wonderful collaborators, the instructional designers, and the carousel that Meredith develops and all of that. Thanks to all the resources in the college, that program is very successful in helping the students learn. Their papers are lovely. We published a book last year or 2 years ago with their papers, the papers they produce at the end. So just a lovely experience for me, and I think also for them. And some of our students who have graduated are helping us teach in the program, and so they really understand, what the program is about.
Maria, thank you for sharing those stories with me. And I really resonate to ensuring that your students remain with you and that they're advocates,
Yes.
that they're teaching. And so let's pull on that thread a little bit. So how can the college show its national footprint? Now, I realize we've got just a little bit under 300 students from other countries in the Mary Lou Fulton college domain, but how can the college talk about itself as a national leader in education? How can you take your strength by numbers, your currently enrolled students, your alums who are in various states? How can you share that story so that, I think, Steve, maybe you talked about mid-level careers. You have to find those people who are at a point in their life that it's like, hey, I need that graduate degree. Why is ASU the difference maker? There's a lot of competition out there, right? There's different price points. So as you continue to work with Carol and think through, Iveta, you said, what does a student look like in 2035? Well, they're going to look younger and we're going to look older. But we're going to continue mapping through how we offer our great academic programs. And I sometimes think, and I'm not asking you to chest pound, you should celebrate your distinctive footprint in the United States in helping educators get to their next step. And that varies sometimes by state as well. So if any of you could riff on that, how do you take your currently enrolled students? How do you take your alums over the last 10 years? And how can they be advocates for you as other folks are going through their next step and thinking through how do I upskill? How do I get maybe a different placement in my existing school or another school? Specifically in that digital immersion domain. I'd like to hear from folks.
Hi, Kent. I'll jump in. I'm Sam DeGangi. I coordinate our online applied behavior analysis programs. And so as you are certainly aware, over the past 10 plus years, we have had over 11,000 students graduate from our program. We're the leading institution in preparing board certified behavior analysts. And so what you're talking about in terms of alumni engagement, it's essential and it's our strength. Certainly our program, going back to the years that we kind of transitioned from a face-to-face program to being online, we've built this alumni base, not only alumni of our program, but practicing board certified behavior analysts across the country, around the world. That the strength of that community,
it's powerful.
It certainly is, and we are constantly looking at ways that we can better leverage that for the for the ongoing professional development of that community, and to also bring others in who have difficulty accessing quality preparation programs at a distance. To your initial question, how do things change over the years? What we've observed is that when we started off with this program, we became known as an accessible program, but also one that is directly linked to the field, to what's going on in the field, whereas our peers, our competitors were, of course, everybody says that they do that, but they were separate. It was clear that their programs were, you had your online academic component, and it was separate from, what they were doing in the field, whatever sectors or whatever areas they're working. And so that piece has been our strength. That's our ongoing challenge as well. As we go into our next versions and our new programs that we bring on, how do we leverage that link? Yeah. I mean, I know I'm answering the question by asking a question, right?
Well, then I was going to throw back, how would you answer your question? The first word, Sam, first of all, thank you for sharing your successes with me. The first word I wrote down was clarity, right?
Sure.
Students come to us to be students, they're learners. They are also consumers as well. And so there are choices available. How did you get to the point where you felt like your program of study, it was very clear the expectations for students? How did you get to that clarity?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that we started on, well, I know that we started off emphasizing that clarity because we wanted to distinguish ourselves from, for lack of a better term, from diploma mill types of institutions, that were, or types of programs, that intentionally or not intentionally, those programs that were, making something online solely clearly to increase enrollment. We from the start, we emphasized the connection to practice, the connection to the field. Even though those components were not necessarily a requirement of the programs, that connection was essential. And so we continuously emphasize that. And I think, you say clarity, I think that was how we were distinguishing ourselves. And now, for example, we've increased our formalization of partnerships with clinics, with schools, so even though those were separate in the past, we certainly had our students engaged in the field. We're now formalizing our partnerships with where they are working or where they're going to be working when they graduate. And I think that's another way that we're currently distinguishing ourselves as our field changes, as requirements of the professional organizations that accredit our programs change. We're showing that we have that presence, not only higher education, effectively delivering and engaging students, but connecting to the field.
Wonderful. Sam, thank you. Others, these last 9 years in the transition of your student population and what you're seeing from them as they have joined you, they graduate, and then they go out and do great work in education. Other examples that you'd like to share with me?
I'm happy to share a feel-good story from an admissions standpoint. And I've only been with MLFC for the past 3 years. But I can say from the graduate side, we're really living up to the charter in opening the possibility for a graduate degree to students that may not have done super well academically in their undergrad experience for a variety of different reasons. We had one ABA applicant who was under a 2.0, and so he was not able to be admitted initially. I had conversations with him, and he said, well, I was in a program where it wasn't my passion area. And I said, okay, I understand that. We can have you take these 2 graduate courses, show us that you can do the work, and you can be admitted. He took 2 classes, I think it was last summer, got a 4.0. He's in the ABA program now with a 4.0 because this was his passion area, right? And because we were able to create opportunities for him to come in to ASU, get the degree, and be able to give back to the community. So I really am behind the work that we do in changing education so that these folks can go out and make a difference in their community.
Devin, how did you make that happen for that student?
This was a college effort, right? This was conversations prior to me coming in saying, we want to make our programs accessible. And so it was just having the conversation with a student, empowering him to understand we do have a pathway for you. It's non-degree. Go ahead, take 2 classes, get a 3.0, show us you can do the work, show us that you can be successful, and then we can get you admitted. So he showed up, he did the hard work, he got himself that 4.0, and he is continuing in on the program, doing the work that he loves.
So let's continue to pull that thread, and others please jump in. It's a great focus group of 1. How does the college embrace access and impact so that a potential learner coming to the site, it's like, oh, I don't have those admissions. I'm not there. I'm not at where you want me to be, but boy, I have focus. I want to make a difference. How do you help kind of tell that story so that when other students like that person are going, ASU might give me a chance here?
Yeah, I can go next, and I'm happy to share. I'm Katie Palachuk. I work in the grad teacher prep with the team, and I think flexibility is key. We have created our pathways where students can start off in the traditional pathway and seamlessly move to getting a long-term sub position the next day and not have to change their path of study. As long as it meets their content. So I think in general, our focus has shifted from delivering instruction in person as well to intentionally designing learning experiences where we have clear modules, aligned assignments, and we're really focusing on those high quality digital materials to do the teaching in online courses. While also balancing and creating a personalized and flexible online environment to help student success as a whole. We realize that we want to be as flexible as we can with students. And Devin gave a good example, right? Of just let's get them in the door and then let's try to make it work. Rarely do we find ourselves saying no to a student. We always have a conversation and really try to make it work in the best fit for the student. So online teaching and digital materials, we're learning that the course really needs to run itself, right? Our only communication with the students really is through our course materials for their content. And then really through our feedback is our only form of communication when we have online students. So really having ourselves and course developers really shifting from that in-person teaching and feedback is something that we're really focusing on in our program.
Katie, thank you for those really great examples. Carol, you were coming off your mic, but now that I've outed you, you probably go, never mind. I don't know.
No, I just
Where you
wanted I wanted Erica to share and just some of the things I think Nicole can talk to this idea about just how we've become more flexible, more nimble, all those kinds of things. And then Ken, I do want to have some time for folks to ask you questions because I know they've got questions
Yeah,
about what's
absolutely.
going on too at the university.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to flip to that here at the half
Yeah.
past the hour. So,
So
Nicole, Erica.
yeah,
Hi,
so
Erica.
hey Kent, how are you?
It's been a while.
I know. So looking back, because I've been here for the last at least 10 years, what I would say has changed for our students is definitely we're seeing some changes in mental health. Students needing more assistance with basic needs, and they're having more financial pressures. I would also say that they're having more cognitive overload than they ever have in the past due to all some of the digital things that are happening in their space. And our student population is now older. So even our undergrads, the average age is 26. So it's not that 18 to 22-year-old population. We have a lot of single parents in our family. So they're navigating a lot. And that's something that we have to take into consideration as we think about how we support students and as part of our charter are responsible for doing. And so I think students are now in need of more integrated and holistic support. And so that's something we try to think
Okay.
about and how we do that. Because if I were to summarize, today's learner, I would say they're compared to 10 years ago or so, I think they're more capable and more connected. I think they're more diverse and more purpose
Mhm.
driven. And I think they're more overwhelmed and skeptical. And I think that they're questioning, why do I need a degree? And I think that's a fair question. And so I
Mhm.
think one of the charges that we have that's very different from when I was here, 10 years ago, it was basically like everyone gets a teaching job. Everyone that graduates, our graduation rate for getting a job after college is like 99%. And that's shifted and changed though, as educational landscape has changed. So we have to be much more intentional about our career integration. It can no longer be optional. We have to think about how that's really central to our enrollment and persistence is how we market our programs and give students experiences that are in direct alignment with career outcomes. And so that's really a change that I see is that we have to, as a college now, think of, back in years back, we used to say it's all about how students adapt to college, but I really feel it's like, how does college adapt to students now? And
Yes.
we have to be thinking
Yes.
about that. So to me, those are like some of the significant changes that we've seen and what we're trying to practice and what we do.
Wonderful, Erica.
So I'm,
I'll get
I'm I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Nicole. I'm Steve. I thought Nicole was going to go
Yeah,
next, but
yeah.
I'm not the moderator.
I was just going to say, aligned to what Erica was sharing about understanding the needs of the students we have now. In the past 10 years, we've completely revamped how we approach educator preparation and the systems and structures that support students to come in, persist, and graduate. We have multiple pathways and options now. When I started in 2017, it was very lockstep. You came in at this point, you did these. If you got off a semester or term, you had to wait for the term to roll around again to get back on path. We didn't have a lot of choice or voice for students in their learning processes. And we have become incredibly flexible, accessible, responsive. We've built a lot of pathways in and through for educator preparation. Sometimes almost to like a little bit of our detriment, we took away cohorting, and so students can create their path now. So we have a little bit of a harder time projecting staffing and scheduling needs because it really is how they need to persist and what aligns with their life, and I mean, maybe in
Yep.
spring of 27, we'll be launching our 90 credit hour bachelor's degree,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
continuing to read the trends in the field and what's necessary to adapt so we can stay in the game has really
Yeah.
been a powerful motivator for us.
Yep. Great examples, Nicole and Erica. Again, as you continue through with your planning efforts, you know, how does the website tell the story in a very efficient way? And then Carol and I were just in a Dean's Council meeting. I mean, AI is just changing how prospective students of any age are looking at. It's like tell me which programs. I'm not sure students are looking at rankings and things like that, but the team has got to think through external communications in very clean and crisp ways when prospective students are looking at graduate programs, at continuing their undergraduate studies. Erica, you talked about the average age of an undergraduate being 26. Many of them come with existing credits, right? So how do those existing credits weave into undergraduate studies? Steve, and then I'll pivot to kind of the university writ large.
So I'll cover a couple of things. Real fast. First, I'll do a call back to Erica's comment and her comment about why do I need this degree? And from, at least in my mind, from the recruitment standpoint, that's not the question. The question is the question we have to answer all the time in learning design, which is what's in it for me? And that's not a thing we explain terribly well to our prospective students. You know, we give them a blurb about the program, we provide a course overview, we give them a nice little paragraph that says, this is what this program will teach you to do. But it doesn't explain to those students what's in it for them, what tangible benefits are they going to get out of the program. In terms of the student needs and everything else we've talked about in our program, we've done a programmatic implementation of AI, and we're seeing some like weird, I don't know how to call them weird, but we're seeing some additional artifacts of that. We tied everything we're doing together with AI mentors. So there are 6 digital mentors that are, one is assigned to a student when they come into the program. But now we're seeing that students, and when we created these things, we did create them with the intent of the students anthropomorphizing them. And they are doing that. So they are using the mentors now. We're seeing just beyond what they're instructed to do with those mentors, and they're like using them as a sounding board. What's what's the potential of me doing this in this career? And then, we did imbue the mentors with that knowledge. And then the other aspects of AI, the kind of instructor facing program facing stuff we're doing within our program has allowed us to be very nimble. We had a blind, that would be an odd metaphor. We got blindsided by a student with visual difficulties this semester, but we can use those technologies now to create a screen reader ebook within 10 seconds instead of like the days it used to take us before. So the degree to which we're nimble now is like crazy. We're using those technologies not only to, provide for student needs and provide support. I don't know if you've heard about CondoBot, but that's another tool I created that addresses student executive function issues. But we're also, enabling them with tools that allow them to address their learner variability by contextualizing assignments. So all the students will be expected to provide the same deliverables, but they can switch the context of what the course, what the assignment's about to a context that suits them. That's, of their immediate concern.
Thank you so much, Steve. Ken, I wanted to see if maybe we can shift to
Yes,
the
absolutely.
university level policies and kind of enrollment trends, if you can share a little bit more with us. And especially in terms of the current geopolitical situation, both within the US, but also globally, maybe from where you sit, how are these current dynamics shaping the existing and projected enrollment trends in higher education? And maybe how is ASU more broadly responding strategically?
Yeah. So let me start there. And, I think the word is challenging. I think the word is complex as it relates to international. And what we have to do is we can't jump in and make it complicated for international students. So fall of 25, we held in there mainly with our continuing students. We enrolled this past fall 14,600 degree-seeking students from other countries. But that composition had changed. We saw a significant decrease in graduate students specifically from India, multi-pronged reasons. Number one, attempting to get a visa issued by the State Department was a bit challenging. but it was also changing dynamics of students in their decision making. With the proliferation of AI, many students who were looking at degrees in kind of the computing ecosystem were taking pauses. So we saw significant decreases there. We have diversified our international population, but the diversification of our international population pales in comparison to our student enrollment from India. In 2017, we enrolled 2,700 degree-seeking students from India. In the fall of 23, we enrolled 7,000 students from India, and those numbers have gone down in 24 and 25, and will go down in 26 as well. So that puts a significant impact on the entire university's ecosystem from a tuition revenue standpoint, but just from a service standpoint as well. One of our unique features is that we made a significant commitment to the optional practical training program. So students could come here, graduate, and then we assisted them in looking at non-STEM and STEM employment opportunities for a period of 2 to 3 years. It's a federal program. That program has gotten some pokes in terms of from different areas of our government, different congressional and Senate leaders saying, now, is this taking away from U.S. citizens looking for jobs as well? So it's complex. So we are a very diverse, unique institution in the fact that we have about 80,000 campus immersion students. And now we have well over 100,000 students joining us as digital immersion learners. Being such a strong university for digital immersion is helping as it relates to some of the erosion that we're seeing in the campus-based programs. But the Mary Lou Fulton College is a microcosm of that. Again, just think 10 years ago, your campus immersion, digital immersion, and now how you've changed. So our colleges have to think through the shape, size, composition, academic programs, and then the student type coming to the university. We've been fortunate. We had a really significant increase in the fall of 22 of first-year students to the university, because the perception is that ASU and Arizona writ large was a bit more open. We were gathering, we were meeting in classrooms, and other states were still not doing that. And so we saw a significant increase of our students from other states, and that has started to soften the further we've gotten away from COVID. Then you add in some of the demographic challenges of a typical traditional first year 18-year-old graduates in the spring and shows up at a university in the fall. We will still enroll about 14,000 students in the fall of 26, but there will be more Arizona resident students here. There's a lot of pride that goes with that, folks. In the fall of 2016, we enrolled about 6,300 first-year students from Arizona. And now in the fall of 26, we'll probably be closer to 9,400 first-year students from the state of Arizona. So, international remains tough on the graduate side. We're optimistic on the undergraduate side, but as you well know, that optimism has hit another pause as it relates to the current war in Iran. And so we may see students join us from Taiwan, Vietnam. We're starting to see some of the first-year student numbers from China head back in more positive direction. But right now, our students from the Middle East aren't thinking about enrolling. They are. I shouldn't go that, but there are other matters that they're dealing with right now. So I met with Holly Singh this morning, who oversees our International Students and Scholars Center, and we've got to be really focused with our consulates and helping them understand that we're here for the students, but then our continuing students from the Middle East. What happens this spring? Will they not be able to go home? How do we help in modification? Yes, many of our international students stay and take classes in the summer, but that percentage might be a little bit higher. So, Carol wrote about the college being nimble. Believe it or not, we're a very nimble institution for the number of students we serve, and we have to be. And so we're in constant communication with our international students. But it depends on regions, and it depends on, the geopolitical unrest, I'll call it that way. So if you don't mind, Iveta, I'd rather now start to address other questions. Iveta was so kind. You guys are the most organized ever, I tell you. So I've got big picture questions. I've got global context, institutional strategy, faculty relevance, and looking ahead. Those were some of the themes that were sent to me. But we're in a Zoom room together. I'd rather address the questions that you have right now about ASU and what we're trying to do as we move forward with our enrollment strategy, and then any questions you might have about our interface with the college.
We can open the floor to the faculty. I think it would be wonderful. But maybe as people are gathering their questions, maybe you can help us understand also a little bit, how does university level enrollment strategy connect with college level strategy? And
Sure, I'll do that. And then please, questions. So each college and school at the university has specific targets for first year, transfer, and master's students. So then our admission services team, in partnership with each of the colleges, because we have 4 campuses, folks. We have 17 colleges and schools. I would say there are core principles as it relates to communication plans, as it relates to campus visit programming, as it relates to financial aid strategy. Those are kind of core principles. And then each of the colleges and schools has to be unique in how it serves its students. So what Erica shared with you as it relates to the undergraduate population of Mary Lou Fulton College is a very different mindset for bringing in a average age 26-year-old than it is for Cronkite, than it is for the very large Fulton Schools of Engineering. The vast majority of those first-year students are coming directly from high school. So it has to vary. But core principles of Iveta, communications, constant communications to students and their family members, event and programming, trying to get as many students here to immerse themselves. What would it really look like if I were actually enrolled on the Tempe campus or the West Valley campus? What would that look like? What would that feel like? Where do I live? Who's teaching me? And then financial aid strategy, both academic merit, scholarship, as well as need-based for our first-year students. Those are kind of the core principles that we provide to each of the colleges and schools.
Thank you. Anyone, questions? Anything that seems urgent and interesting in this very uncertain time?
I guess just to say that the all online programs, like our global program, Masters of Education, allows students from many of these regions that are troubled to join in what seems to be a safe space for them. So because our program really attracts national and international students, it allows that dialogue, between, I guess, people who are in the US and those people who are somewhere else. The quality of our students has also improved. We have somebody from Thailand that's is amazing, and she's in a very good position in the Ministry of Education. In any case, I just think that maybe outreach from online programs could be intensified or made more evident to those people who are now not willing to come to the States for, reasonable concerns. And just, how the online programs then make them feel safe. I think that's an important question.
Absolutely.
I
And
appreciate
maybe I
that,
will
Maria.
add to this as well. Kent, you mentioned earlier that teachers' colleges, actually international enrollments are fairly low compared to the university overall. And maybe just thinking about this, what could we as a college be doing differently to increase international enrollments, especially in online programs? And how can we be working, I don't know, maybe more closely with your office or with other units on campus to maybe make a bigger push for that in that space?
Sure. Sure of that. I would probably flip that and say, okay, where can we make the greatest impact? Are there countries who are looking to move and shift? And Iveta and I have a previous relationship here because we've done that with students from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Teacher education programs came here. English language learning, those types of things, so that whenever we see a country who wants to sponsor a group, run with it. I mean, obviously you got to talk to Carol about it, but is there a great opportunity to latch on to something that a country is doing to invest in their citizens to be better in what they are doing in their careers? So that's where, could we see Canada possibly doing that? Could we see Mexico? Is there something that we can do in Taiwan because of the uniqueness? TSMC and its Halo folks here in the Valley, I mean, in terms of careers, is going to be just amazing, right? So, how can we work with some of our current teacher educators in the North Valley as it relates to, access to Mandarin? Those types of things. But how could we do something? The Ministry of Education in Taiwan is very, very excited about partnership opportunities. Well, what would that look like for a student who possibly can't leave Taiwan, but maybe could spend a semester here within the Teachers College? Those are some creative things that I think of that you could think through as it relates to international education, but it has to be, in my humble opinion, very specific. If a country has a need, boom, go to it, think through it, and we might have to adapt a bit as well. So the previous government in Taiwan had some really interesting thoughts on, well, we'll just send our teachers over for a year. Well, a year's not enough. Now, how do you politely tell the Ministry of Education, could you experiment with us? We need 2 years or 3 years, or somehow it's come, be with us, go back, come back, so that it's sustained rather than just an event.
And Ken, while I support the idea of Mandarin, my initial idea when we developed this program of global education, I developed it with thinking about the courses that will be helpful to our education colleagues in Latin America. So whereas, Mandarin is an interesting proposition, we have seen a reduction of people from China and even Taiwan enrolling in our programs. But my idea was to translate the program into Spanish. And, we will get, I think, a large number of people from Latin America enrolling in the program. And the question has always been, what resources can we have to do this? And there are colleagues in Chile and other places. I have a great network, but we will need the go ahead to do this kind of, as you call it, an experiment, right? And see how that works. But we have so many people in Latin America that need this type of program.
This is wonderful. Absolutely, Maria Teresa. And actually, Kent, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how is the relationship, how does the university overall doing with the Mandarin programs and that maybe pilot or experiment that we started? And maybe what are other emerging areas like the Spanish speaking context that we should be exploring?
Yeah, I know that various partners for Carol are thinking about how to deliver academic programs in other languages. I think it's critical, but again, we can chase things and then we spend time on maybe we exhaust our energies on 24 things when we should be looking at 5. So that's where I'm a big fan of if a country is starting an initiative, if you look through strategic plans of various countries, especially countries who then make financial commitments to their citizens and programs, that to me is the best opportunity. And then even though the numbers are small in Mary Lou Fulton College for international, they're not at the university. And we're in the 5th largest city in the United States with an abundance of international communities within the region. So there's a way to, if you will, package a very holistic opportunity to people who are saying, we need this. So, one last question, maybe, Iveta?
Yeah, colleagues, does anybody have any questions? If not, I do have one. But let me ask you first. Well, my question is, while you're still thinking, and you can add on to mine. My question, Kent, is maybe what are some of the trends that you are more worried the most? And maybe what are you optimistic about as we, head into this somewhat uncertain future for higher education?
It is an uncertain future. We know that it's
on multiple fronts.
On multiple fronts. However, education is the cornerstone for a life well lived. And so you have students coming to the college who are saying, I need a master's degree. I want a master's degree. I have to advance. I have to do this. And it's not uniform, right? They might have family obligations. They might have issues where now they're by themselves. Nothing is kind of uniform with this. But your power right now is in graduate education. And so how do you take advantage of graduate education and how maybe you look at it state by state? Who's joining the college at higher proportions from particular states? And can you take advantage of that and increase your market share? Can you then have recent graduates who have advanced in their careers be your spokespeople to other people? I'll pick on my home state of Iowa. Hey, Kent, we have a student who just finished who's in the Roosevelt School District in Des Moines, Iowa, who's now an assistant principal. Let me connect you with him or her. We've got to be creative in this space. I think the student voice needs to be heard a little bit more, and I think the young alum voice needs to be heard. And that's not to diss everybody here. in the Zoom room. You are great faculty who are making a great difference in the classroom in your research. Sometimes I think it's important for that prospective student to hear from someone who's in the same space as that prospective student. I was able to meet my family obligations. I was able to do this. It's real relevant examples of how a student from the Mary Lou Fulton College made it through, earned the degree, and now is successful in his or her career.
Thank you so much, Kent. It feels like it's the beginning of the conversation only, but you definitely gave us a lot to think about, but also an opportunity to reflect on what we have done so far. So thank you for sharing the insights with us and for spending the time with us this afternoon. We may reach back to you
Absolutely.
with some more
And
questions.
please do so. If any of you want to email me, please do so at kenhopkins@asu.edu, because I know each of you has an individual pixel in this Zoom room. And the stronger the pixels are, the better we are for the college and for the university.
Carol, and would you
Thank you,
like
Ken.
to add?
Yeah, just thank you, Ken. I'm going to miss you. You know that. We've got a long way to go till the end of the semester and
Yep.
commencement and everything else. But thank you so much for doing this. Much
Absolutely,
appreciated.
Carol.
And
Yep.
As other questions come, we'll pass them along. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.